Okay, Home Alive, NighTraiN, Fly Moon Royalty, Wiscon, Sessions of She, Bastan, Sisters in Seattle, and POC as fuck. I am very confident that I'm missing something in that list, but I'm gooning out because I get to chat with one of my biggest heroes today, Miss Taryn Rene Dorsey. Hi.
Hey,
How are you?
good. And I think that you named everything, and I think that that's okay, even if we forgot something together. It's fine.
Awesome, awesome. So, just a little bit of, I think, like intro and context. I think the very first time I was exposed to any of your work was over at the Lo-Fi. I want to say it was either October or November of 2014. It was the last show that NighTraiN did, and I fell in love with your music that night and was so sad that that was the last night. But I mean, thank goodness for recordings, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was that was a really fun night. We definitely had a blast for our last show. It was sad and a little bittersweet, but we really did have a good time. That was a fun show.
Yeah, I remember like the room was packed. DJ General Meow was rocking it in the front part of the space. It was overall a really good time. So, um, I would love to just get to know you a little bit better, and then maybe we can talk about your work along the way. But I think that you're from the Portland area originally, yeah?
I was born in Portland, and then I moved to like Southern Oregon when I was young, around 7 or so. So definitely I definitely call Portland my hometown, but like Medford and Southern Oregon areas mainly where I grew up.
Okay. And then when did you make your way up to Seattle?
Oh God, I came to Seattle in 2000, late in September.
Okay, 2000.
Yeah.
And I have to remember that that's closer to 20 years ago than it is 10 years ago. For some reason, like my mind always skips from 1990 to like 2010, and I don't know why.
Because saying something happened 20 years ago and I was like 20 freaks me out.
Young spirit though. It's like totally young spirit. So I'm kind of curious because again, I've only visited Portland like maybe a handful of times, so I can't say that I know it quite well. Like are there any key differences between like Southern Oregon slash Portland? I don't know how rude it would be to group those two together. Between that area and Seattle that you've noticed over time.
Well, definitely. I mean, when I go back home, to Portland, I always have a blast. But I mean, I also have my best friends still live in Portland, and I have family in Portland as well. Um, but there's still that kind of keeping Portland weird and a really great vibe. So much really good food to eat. Um, Lots of shows to go to. I don't know, Portland has just been changing ever since I've been back in Seattle. Because I actually moved back to Portland after I graduated high school. Um, there's definitely a noticeable difference, just like it is in Seattle. If you've lived here more than 10 years, you've seen the gentrification that has happened and some of the older clubs closing,
Mm-hmm.
some of the culture kind of changing a little bit. Um, for Southern Oregon, I mean, Southern Oregon, like in Medford, more specifically, has definitely grown. It has become a little bit more diverse. Southern Oregon is beautiful. It's definitely that. Like, if you're an outdoorsy type of person, it is probably a really great place to live. Um, my godparents live there, so I do go and visit at least once a year. So there's definitely been a lot of growth. Other than that, I don't want to go back to Medford to live.
Okay. That's good to know. And then,
Yeah.
I mean, like you mentioned, Portland's got a lot of great shows, and like Seattle has a really great local music scene as well. I mean, like which is how I learned about
hmm
you. So like maybe just like in the music scene specifically, like key differences that you've seen between Seattle and the Portland area.
Um, I still think that they're both very vibrant cities when it comes to music, but I would
Hmm.
probably say that Seattle has Portland beat in the sense of um, how many goddamn bands there are
Mm.
in Seattle. Not that there's not a lot of bands in Portland. There are, most definitely. Um, but Seattle's a little bigger. It is a little bit more of a city, which is,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, not that it's any better than Portland. I love Portland. My heart is still in Portland. It's my favorite city. But um, I think that in Seattle, sometimes it feels a little more serious.
Okay. Okay.
However, I don't want to come off as a dick
No, no,
because
no. I like, and I
I never,
understand. So
yeah, I
the
guess
the
like I've,
question wasn't asked at all to like to build any more like friendly animosity between the two places. It's just really it was really just like to get. I mean, like there, like Portland has some fantastic venues like Doug Fir Lounge, and I think it's I don't know, like I know like a lot of great bands out of there too, like Heliosequence, for
oh
example. And
yeah,
I geek out about them all the time. But just really to understand, I think like the different flavors that the two cities have.
I just think that Portland's more laid back. Um, and there's obviously definitely working musicians and always music coming out of Portland that it's important and has in the past and always will.
Mm-hmm.
Seattle, there does, and I'll say this: I never really did music in Portland. I was friends with folks that were in bands. So I mean, I got to be like around the music scene in that way. The fact that I was like, I'm a groupie for my like friends' bands, and then Seattle. This is where I really was able to start music and to be in that place of being a musician in Seattle. So I mean, there's definitely going to be that difference for me, but just knowing all the folks that I know here in Seattle, um, it seems like there's. I know more working musicians here in Seattle, but that's because I live here and I've been here for 17 years. Oh my God.
Sure, sure, absolutely. And you're making this really easy for me, just kind of segueing into this next part. So I know that various members of your family have influenced your taste in music over the years. I like did my homework a little bit reading about just your taste in records. I think it was for Stack Magazine. So
Yes.
having that influence along the way in your life, and then coming here to Seattle and creating it, like when and how did you start being like not only a deep listener of music, but then go into the creation aspect of it?
I mean, I have loved music from the womb, and my family has always loved music, and definitely different types of music. Depends on, um, what folks I used to hang out with. So I like I was in choir, when you could start going to being in choir in elementary school,
Oh.
and did that throughout high school. Um, I think that middle school and high school is when music really hit me because I lived for it. I needed to have music in my face, like in my ears at all times. It was kind of my savior in a sense. I definitely had to deal with a lot of stuff in school, and so music has always been everything. It's been my solace in life. Um, but I wasn't. I don't. Not that I wasn't serious about it in high school, but I think I just wasn't confident enough. And I was like, I'm happy to be like in concert choir and sing with my friends and listen to music and hang out. But I was still too shy. So really, the musician part didn't happen until about 10 years ago, and that was when I lived in Seattle. In like 2007 when I applied for the play. Um, Actually, I should say that Rachel sent me the casting call for the play that ended up being called Hot Grits, which then ended up being how NighTraiN got together. So that's really when I started to, learn how to play the drums and be able to have more confidence in singing and harmonizing and helping with writing songs and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, Night Train. I mean, sometimes I'll just put it on, like when I'm in the kitchen or like just kind of doing my chores around the house. It's good. Just kind of like feel good when you're listening to it. So, like, it came to the process of songwriting. I mean, the four of you are like all really strong. What did that writing process look like?
Well, really, it differed because the ladies are fantastic with writing. Like Nicole's had her own bands, and she writes her own songs. Rachel is a playwright, and she has written her own songs.
Mm.
And Selena has done everything. She's done theater. She was a comedian. Not that she's still not, but this is kind of her background. And she wrote quite a bit of the songs as well. She's a fantastic songwriter. So I didn't. I think the only thing that I really I lent myself to was the diss, which was I think originally going to be Hot Grit's song for the play, and we decided that it was going to be a song for NighTraiN. I think I just wrote a part of that. But other than that, I didn't really do a lot of writing because I felt like anytime I wrote, it was the 13-year-old of me writing in my diary. So I was
Okay.
like not very confident in writing, especially when the three of them were and are so so good at it. And I think that really that comes with not just school, but being able to be confident and just keep doing it and don't stop. Don't stop yourself. And I think that's kind of what I did when it came to writing. Um, so that's for NighTraiN. Now when it comes to Wiscon, um, I'm writing a little more. And it's nice because I feel like I have the space to feel more comfortable to write as well.
Uh-huh. Okay. And is
So
that like from a lyric standpoint or like the music as well?
say that again?
Is that from like a lyrics and like word standpoint or like from the music side as well?
Well, this for me. Well, and I guess I didn't really answer the full question. For NighTraiN, let me go back just a tick. We would so sometimes someone would just bring a full song. Maybe they had a melody with it possibly, and then we would just jam it out together, or we would just be jamming out on some stuff. Like maybe Nicole would start a guitar riff, and then I would start playing drums with her, and then someone would like make lyrics up for it. So it was pretty collaborative in that way, when it comes to NighTraiN.
Mm-hmm.
For Wiscon, Paul is our main songwriter, and he's amazing. Like he will send us a full song,
Oh
like
yeah.
drums, keys. We don't have guitar, but he plays guitar, and lyrics, and have every single piece of it. It's amazing. I'm like, how do you, how do you
Yeah.
do that? Um, and it's so rad because I'm like, I love every song that he writes, and so I get into it as if I wrote it myself. I didn't, but you wouldn't know. But now that we are like kind of growing together, and I've been with Wisconsin for about 5 years now, and we've had some lineup changes, I feel more comfortable because I think that coming from the drums in NighTraiN, it was kind of a hard transition to go to a lead singer. Um, I it took me a long time just to get to sing karaoke
Okay.
because I even when I was in NighTraiN, I in the beginning I probably started in karaoke like maybe four 4 years ago or so. I couldn't do it, even no matter how many shots I had at the Crescent. Like, I would just like instantly become sober. Like hell no, I'm not doing that because I was too afraid to go and sing in front of people. Like I could sing backup all day if I was behind the drums, but yeah. So I'm really grateful for Wiscon and actually for Fly Moon for kind of helping me get over that, kind of get over
Yeah.
myself, have the confidence to do that. So then that kind of leads into having more confidence to, write down some things. Like I hear a chorus very easily, but then trying to find a verse is really hard. I will be laying in bed and a song will run through my head. everything, like the verse to the chorus to a bridge. And if I don't hurry up and get my phone to record it, I lose it. And what I end up just having is the chorus. So I've actually been like sending that stuff to Paul. And we're kind of working on some things from some of the choruses that I sent him. And there's a couple songs I've written for Wiscon that we've done. And it's a good start. It's great because now I'm feeling more confident about even just sharing it.
Mm-hmm.
Or if we're not really a jam band or anything, not that NighTraiN was either, but sometimes, we'll play around and, we can just make up stuff together. So it's really great. Steven's throwing in songs, so is Johnny. So it's very collaborative, which is nice.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I think I'm the same way in that if I don't write something down immediately, I lose it. So I think I have maybe several notes saved on my smartphone here where it's just like little fragments of thoughts here and there. I'm like, should I stitch them together someday? Like, are they just kind of sitting
Right.
in little thoughts? Like, I don't know if it has any value. Maybe it will later on. We'll see. But yeah, like, when did you start getting involved, or like, when did you start doing backup for Fly Moon Royalty? Because, you talk about the transition from drumming to being a lead singer, and then, doing backup vocals for Fly Moon Royalty kind of seems like like an interesting, like, kind of medium step between that.
Yeah, God. Well, I think it might have been close to the same time, actually, with Fly Moon. So about and with Wiscon.
Oh,
So I
okay.
think 5, yeah, at least 5. I feel like Audra said 6, but it's either 5 or 6 years ago. Because Fly Moon, I met Audra and Mike before they were even called Fly Moon. They were called Sugar Water Purple, and they were at our at NighTraiN's like first like EP release. That was at the old Funhouse,
Whoa.
and that's when I got to meet them. I'm like, I love them, and I love their music. So fun, and like so many genres like packed into one. Little bit of like rock and roll, a little bit of like R&B, a little bit of soul, a little bit of like electro, like
Mm-hmm.
pop, all in one. I'm like, this is awesome. And so and we all kind of started out um, around the same time band wise too. So it's really so cool to see like the journey of what happened, and how it evolved and stuff. But yeah, I think that Wiscon, I mean, Wiscon's been around a little bit before me, because Paul was actually the lead singer, and he played the keys. If you can imagine that, because that's a lot, because he's doing, yeah.
Well, can I, and
And
then not
so,
to interrupt, but at the shows, he's like, he has so much hair action too that I don't know how, like,
uh,
he'd be stabilizing it to sing into a microphone.
yeah, I mean, so they had, several shows out, and then they were like, hey, do you want to join
Oh,
Wiscon? I was
okay.
like, what? Yes, I do. I love it because super just talk about monsters and sci-fi, B, horror movies and things like that. It was just really fun and different. And I was like, hell yes. And that would be like, my way to be able to kind of start getting over my fear. I mean,
Hmm.
I look at videos from back then. I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I look so stiff. I remember, being so nervous. I mean, I still get nervous every time I sing, but I definitely have grown. Now I just need to work on my banter. But other than that,
Oh, like stage
and more
banter,
moves.
or
But
okay.
yeah, so it's interesting that the I think Fly Moon was before Wiscon though, um, and then we really started kind of going heavy probably the last 3 years, where I was definitely more of their kind of permanent backup singer. Before it was just kind of just some certain shows that they wanted me to be on for a couple songs. So, going through the music journey, it's really
Yeah.
sweet.
A little bit reminiscing too. So I mean, like, just
Yeah.
on the subject of confidence, I mean, I know that you're uh like a leading activist in this community as well, and I might have like my thoughts and opinions, and I might be really good on paper, like when I have time to articulate something, but like if you throw me into a conversation and it's kind of like, wait, like why is that white supremacy, Lori? I'll be like, like I need backup, I need backup. I'm curious to know. I'm curious to know when you started to blend, your music and your art with your activism.
Oh, long before I was even in music,
Okay.
actually. Well, maybe they go together. I mean, I was volunteering young, and so when I first kind of came to Seattle, um, I tried to do Amnesty International and like lifelong when they had the store over where's the old location? I can't even think right now. But I found out about Home Alive,
Mm-hmm.
and that was probably about 11, maybe 11. Oh my God, it's really 11 years ago, something like that. So Home Alive, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but Home Alive started out because of the death and really murder of Mia Zapata,
Right.
and she was the lead singer of the Gits. And obviously, her friends and her community and her music community were devastated. And they were like, she was just getting home. Why wasn't she able just to get, safely home? So being able to get home alive was something that I think it was Christian Storm and a few other amazing folks started that many years ago. And I think, kind of set off as helping with like self-defense, um, showing moves of what you can do when you are attacked by somebody, or if there is something just. I think that's something going on with somebody else and getting into your space and not being safe. And then it, evolved and made sure that it was being inclusive of everybody and talking about boundaries and like physical boundaries and helping you do that. And I think I was volunteering for Amnesty International at a show, and that's where I saw Home Alive's booth. So I was like, this is really awesome. And I started to volunteer for them. And then I took the class to be a teacher, to teach the self-defense classes, and which opened up just a huge world for me, not only just for learning oh my God, about inclusive vocabulary to learning about trans issues, to learning about, um, boundaries and self defense, um, but also music and the Seattle music scene, especially kind of in the beginning of Home Alive, because there was CDs and records and stuff that were part of like a benefit, to benefit Home Alive. And I looked up all those folks. So it was Reggie Watts, Misled, who else? Dave from Have Like a Kite, I think Alcohol Funny Car, but they were called, no, it was Ben London's, one of Ben London's bands. And I can't even think of the name right now because I'm a jerk. But I looked them all up. Oh, Greg Markle, like I looked all these people up. And I'm like, oh my God, they're all still doing music. And I was just blown away by their dedication to music and to Home Alive. And I just loved all their music. And then I kind of started to become a nerd fan. And like, I just bought like more music from them. And I ended up actually not being a teacher for self defense class. I ended up being on the board of Home Alive instead after I got my certificate and did benefit shows and auctions and things like that. So I got to meet folks from the music scene then,
Mm-hmm.
who were kind of like my heroes and sheroes, like Leslie Wood from Misled, getting to meet her when she was in Redwood Plan and then Skates. And then it just kind of came full circle because I got to play with Dave from Have Like a Kite. I got to play with Leslie Wood and like Skates or have shows as a Redwood Plan. I got to meet Red London and like getting to actually meet all these folks and then to play shows with them. Like, I remember telling Dave, I'm like, Dave, you don't understand.
You don't get
Years
it.
ago.
You don't get it.
Oh my god. I'm like so embarrassed right now because I'm fanning out so hard right now. And he's like, that's really cool. Like, thanks for letting me play with you. This is really awesome. And I can't believe I heard your music like years ago and now look at where I'm at. So I think, my activism in music really started with Home Alive.
Mm-hmm.
And then as a musician, especially with NighTraiN, we did so many benefit shows of all kinds. And then I remember one of Wiscon's, one of our like early shows was at a Planned Parenthood benefit, and that was some years ago. And I just think that to me, part of being in music is that you are there to help your community. And that kind of lends itself into Pockets Fuck. That Tim Lennon and I put on together, and of course, my friend Pepe was also part of that as well. But we really wanted to highlight folks of color in the rock and roll genres, and then do benefit shows around that. So we did a show at Lo-Fi that benefited the Garfield Black Student Union. We did another, I think our first show was just to put it on and just to get folks out there and kind of have a really fun show with cool folks, but also have an underlying message that folks need to be in these shows as well, and just making that effort to highlight folks of color in rock and roll, considering that we made that genre.
Yeah, and like to be
So,
like really intentional about like creating a specific space, and like when it comes to Pockets Fuck on Facebook, like I definitely follow that page, and it's where I get some of my news about like POC issues and things that you definitely would not find um in the mainstream news sources. I mean, because they're focusing on other things, of course, but then like even when you seek it out, you don't necessarily find it. So pretty grateful for that, just as a follower of the page. And then kind of along the same vein of creating spaces for folks, Sessions of She. We'll have to talk a little bit about that, and your co-production of it, and just maybe how you came up with the concept with these monthly shows.
well, Sessions she started way before I was a part of it.
Oh, okay.
Um, it was, yeah. So Missy and Andrea, they actually had a podcast at first, and so they would just have they just come on and they would interview them via podcast. I actually got to be a part of that with Dorsey, and so who's a really awesome country singer and just kind of a badass babe. And so we got to do that together, and then I believe they started doing the shows live at Rendezvous. And then Andrew, I think, was doing some music and all, like, just all sorts of stuff because, as you all know, we're all busy doing a million things. So I think Missy then wanted to have another co-host to kind of keep it going, and so she asked me to do it, and I was super honored to be a part of that because I think it's such a great concept of highlighting women and non-binary folks and self-identifying STEM folks to be inclusive in that way, because as we should. It shouldn't even be a thing. We shouldn't even have to say inclusive. It's so annoying, but we have to, and so there is that. And that is a reality. But we want it to be like that. So having having comedians and musicians and visual artists coming together in one place. I don't think that anyone else is really doing that. I think that's really cool and really needed. And it's really inspirational. Every time we cry, we laugh. We cry, we laugh. And they're just inspired. And having it be where, people get to show their work, we get to perform, and we get to interview them, live and on stage. It's pretty great. And I think that, the Joe Box Theater is the perfect place for that. Um, so I've been doing that for a year and a half. I believe. So we're kind of taking a break right now and trying to refigure how we want to do things. We kind of want to, we're thinking of doing some um, panels and such. So kind of doing like a, you know, folks in the industry kind of thing, and we're just kind of slowly working on that right now, trying to figure out where we want to go next
Okay.
with that.
Okay. Yeah, I also saw that I think it was maybe one or two of the shows or performances like you were collecting donation items, right? Like, whether it be tissues or like hygiene products for like the homeless, or like, you don't use another term. It wasn't homeless. Um but for
Oh
this.
yeah, Missy has had a term for that. Um, I don't know if it was like those lacking homes or no, something better than that. It was a nice, kind of nice and clever, and of course I can't think of it
Yeah, I can.
right now.
I feel so terrible about it. Maybe I'll be able to look it up and then provide it maybe in the comment section for this interview. But yeah, just take note, folks. Like, accepting donations as a form of like, way to get yourself into the show. I think that that was just a really great idea.
But
Um
yeah, because we didn't want to, put anybody away. We pay for the sound, so we don't want to take the money, because we were kind of doing like a suggested donation, or this is like how much, like it'll be $5 or whatever.
mhm.
And I realized that we weren't really getting, well, we weren't getting enough funds to pay for the sound, so we just ended up like just kind of agreeing that we were going to have the sound, and then whatever we receive from the, box office, if you will, then we'll just split it up between the performers. And we were like, you know what, this should be free. People should just be able to come. We're not making money off of this, and this is not what we were wanting to make money off of anyway. It wasn't about that. It was about showcasing these awesome people and the work that they're doing within Seattle. So let's just do donations. And
Mhm.
because of that, we actually are paying the folks that are coming onto the show more money that way. We're actually getting more funds because we made it a donation, and all of those monies go to, the performers, and we just split that, and then we just still pay the sound, out of our pocket, because we felt that that was fair. And to me, that's kind of like with Pock as Fuck as well. Or even if it's not Pock as Fuck, like Wiscon just did a benefit show for Southern Poverty Law Center, because, we were trying to garner funds for My First Day single, which was
Mhm.
our, like, kind of our first political song. And I told the booker that I wanted to make sure that, 50% of the door, obviously after sound and whatnot, that would go to the bands, and then the other 50% would go to Southern Poverty Law, because I believe that the band should get paid. Musicians should get paid. If it's, I don't know. To me, I just still think the band should get paid, even if it's a benefit show. Give them 10% of the door. Why not?
Mhm.
Because they're also putting their time and their effort. And yes, I understand for some folks, doing benefit shows, it is an honor to do a benefit show. It really is. And everyone that's in a band should be doing it. However, I still think you should get paid. And that's kind of Pockets Fuck's attitude as well, is that the musician should always get paid. Right. It may not be a guarantee, because we can't necessarily do that. But, we're definitely going to give either a percentage, or like maybe a small guarantee, just to make sure that people are getting paid. I just think it's really important. I don't see why it can't be like that, because there's like big benefit shows that make a lot of money, and it's really fantastic that they're making a lot of money for that cause. But why can't you kick down the musicians some money as well? There's working musicians, and this is their livelihood. It is not just a side project. And even if it is, you should still get paid, because it's your time and your effort and your art.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, like my friend and I,
Tell me how you really feel, Taryn.
yeah, I appreciate that. Like my good friend and I, like we're always saying to each other, like, did they get paid? Like, get paid. Like it's just kind of like something in general that we talk about, and like, like not feeling bad about receiving it either. Like, for doing the work that you do, and like, trying to get away from that, like, the concept of like unpaid internships, right? Hey, it's like great exposure. It's a great resume builder. It's like, no, I need something more tangible than that. Um,
Yeah, or maybe have it be like, a time frame. So they're going to be interns, but the first 3 months, we're going to see if it's right. And maybe they know that maybe they'll get a small stipend or
Mm-hmm.
something. But I still think that people need to get paid. I mean, there's like, okay, so there's like the Northwest Folk Life. So I believe that for most of the shows, they may not pay the musicians, I believe. And it's because it's a free show and it's community based. It is all volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a very very small team. I think that gets paid to put it on. Well, now they're having issues, and they're having issues with funds. They still want to put on quality programming, but they're having a hard time. So asking community folks to help. They still want to put on a free show. But I'm like, why? I mean, I get it. Everyone should be able to go see music, but when I have a sliding scale or just donation for it, people will give money. They really will, even if it's $1. It's better than nothing, right? And, in that kind of case, there's some talk about, well, they don't pay the musicians. I'm like, well, because it's a free show. So
Mm-hmm.
that part, I guess that's the part that kind of gets tricky because yes, I do believe that musicians need to get paid for their work. If it's a free show because it's community based, they could still try to give a stipend, even if it's small. Even if it's like you're going to get paid $50. Hey, that's still $50. And if you don't want to take it, you don't take it. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously, if it's a free show, you don't want to take it. You don't have to play it. That's the thing. There is choice. So I don't know. I lead towards musicians should get paid regardless. Um, but I know that with like folk life, that might be a harder thing to get.
Yeah, I mean, like it's interesting, like just for example, like someone being, I think just like a general participant in a festival, like whether that be folk life or like just recently there was Upstream, and you maybe go and enjoy, but you don't necessarily know like the inner workings or like the structural design of everything, and um, I don't know, like just kind of diving into that, I think is pretty interesting. And I appreciate your perspective as well. Like, I'm definitely someone who will support folks getting paid, right? It's
Yeah,
important.
because the thing is, like, I'm not a working musician. If I was, then I'd be like, I need to get paid. Like, I know lots of jazz musicians. To me, they're the best because they are like the most hardworking. I mean, okay, that probably sounds rude. We're all very hardworking because we love what we do. However, the jazz musicians that I know, they're the ones that are like working every single day
Mm-hmm.
with their music, and doing gigs and things like that. So I'm like, I know that they need to make sure that they get paid. They can't be out here doing free shows because that's rent, and it's just, yeah, it's
Yeah.
important that people have that. For us, all of our money, I don't get paid for Wiscon. I didn't really get paid for NighTraiN, except for when we went on tour and made money somehow. That was amazing. But all of our funds went back to our band. Like Wiscon has never done a we need money to help do our record. The only time we've asked for money is for a benefit show,
Mm-hmm.
or for the Southern Poverty Law thing. Um, and not to say that you can't ask for money, that's fine, but that's not really our jam. So, we do a decent amount of shows so that we can, have money from the shows to pay for our recording, to pay for our merch,
Mm-hmm.
etc. So I'm not making any money, but I feel like if this is your livelihood and this is your passion, then you should get paid.
For sure. And like I get kind of frustrated. I mean, like this is like a mini venge sesh for me, but like I get kind of frustrated, like, when folks will consume someone's work, but then at the same time just kind of like
Mm,
invalidate it, kind of like, oh, like I can't support quote unquote super rude, like I can't support like starving artists, like, get quote unquote like a real job or something. I'm like, well then don't listen to it. Like,
yeah.
don't consume the work that you're gonna simultaneously say isn't deserving of your dollars, right? Um,
Yeah, exactly. The whole, like, being an upstream and being on the panel and talking about streaming music, there's the reality of that. There's always been that person in the pocket of the musician. I mean, obviously we know all the horror stories of like back in the day, especially to like rock and roll, jazz musicians, etc. of color, that wouldn't get paid, and that got screwed over. Or
mm-hmm.
that some people are still like fighting for their estates and things like that. It's ridiculous when they've made, that record company millions and millions of dollars, and yet they never got any money. Um, and it's messed up. So,
Mm-hmm.
even now, even though we have more control of, in a way, of how maybe we put our music out and we can record it ourselves and things like that, there's still, people putting music up that's not theirs. And yeah, they're getting that for free. And that was hard work and it's art. You don't just get a painting for free. You're probably going to be buying it from the artist. So, and there's always been um, that thing with music and money. And it's unfortunate. It's not. I don't know why it's looked at like just as a hobby, and that it's not something important when it touches touches so many parts of our lives for so many
Mm-hmm.
folks.
For sure. Yeah, just so many different parts of our lives. Yeah. Ooh, that's another tangent we can go on. Um, I'm kind of curious.
There's so many.
I know, yeah. Like being such a like an active and busy person, Taryn. Like can you describe for me then what a moment of relaxation looks like for you? Whether that be like the environment that you prefer, or like the activities, or like just maybe lack of activities.
Oh my god, that's kind of hard because I since I've been grinding, I think for the past 10 years, and I think that once NighTraiN was over, I was like, well, I'm gonna step up my game and like do all the things, and I did. And so, to be honest, relaxation and that really hasn't happened um, until more recently because I have taken things off of my plate. So, like with Fuck as Fuck, we're doing this Hoodstock now. So we are helping to kind of co-produce and also, like co-book
Mm-hmm.
um, with Fuck as Fuck folks. So we have our name on that, and then so, I take care of the page. But right now, kind of taking a break from Session Machine. I had a couple of bass band gigs, but I'm kind of taking a break from that.
From the DJing.
Um, so really, right now, what I'm doing is Wiscon, and I really just want to focus on Wiscon because I realize I'm burnt out,
Mm-hmm.
and I am not going. I feel like I'm not supporting my other friends and artists, musicians, etc., as much as I could, and as much as I used to, because I was doing so many other things and projects, which I am like I'm so grateful to have been a part of all of the things I've been a part of over the past 10 years. But I was doing 6 projects and working full time, and I have a partnership, and I have family and friends. And to be real, I have lost some of my relationships, and almost completely lost my partnership because I was really putting my art and music first. And for a while, that was okay. But I kind of came to the realization that I've got to do every kind of art that I've ever wanted to do, and I am proud and I am happy that I got to do that. But it's time now for me to kind of relax and chill out. And I talk about all the time self-care, but I don't really do it for myself because I feel if I said something that I'm going to do it, then I would like to know that my word is bond. But unfortunately, sometimes those obligations become a bit much. So today I got to put my face in the sun, and that was a beautiful, relaxing thing to do.
Mm.
I am learning how to say no to things, even if I know it may hurt someone's feelings. I just have to not even think about it like that. I need to think about my own feelings first, and that might sound rude, and maybe because I'm still working through it, but I don't think it really is rude. I think it's just me being real and honest. And that's the one thing I can say is honesty and integrity of that. Now I just need to keep saying no to things unless it's about Wiscon, because I want to focus on myself and friends and family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm still trying to figure out what relaxation means because it's really hard for me. I've always kind of been a nervous, like, um, person and always having to do stuff because if I sit, that I'm like in my head, and then who knows what will happen? What will happen then? But I just need to wind it down a bit and to chill out a bit, and really to also be just a little more focused because I've been spread so thin doing all these other wonderful things
Mm-hmm.
that I haven't really been able to do anything 100%. I mean, I don't know, the whole 100% is kind of weird, but I haven't been able just to focus on one thing. And I think that there's time for me, to do that.
It's interesting that you say 100% because I mean, like, that kind of gives you an image of like one single pie, different slices, like, eventually you run out. And, like, as much as, I'm someone that, as much as I would like to think that, oh, like, my energy is boundless, like, my love for people is boundless, and, like, like, the more I grow, the more I have to give. I mean, like, at the end of the day, each of us only has like 24 hours to work with in a day, right? Like, that doesn't
Right.
change. Like, just like we're all like constrained by time, even if it's not energy, like, we all have like the same amount of time, and, like, there, like, you do have to divide it up. Yeah, I mean, like, learning how to say no, I think a lot of folks struggle through that, or like, learning how to do that. But then, like, also learning how to say no and not having like any kind of guilt weighing on your shoulders after that.
Oh my God, yes.
Like, just
Because I have
letting
all
it
the
go.
guilt.
Yeah.
I do because I really just want to make people happy, and I also want to, um, I want to do all the things, and that's part of my problem. But now, though, to be honest, like, I kind of don't want to do all the things, and it's weird and it's different. And I realized that once I started taking some of these things off my plate, I don't really know what to do with myself because I didn't realize. I think that a lot of my identity was placed within these things,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of my pride and my sense of self was placed in these things because I've never really belonged anywhere. I've never really fit into anywhere. I've hung out and I hang out with every kind of person you can think of, and I love every, like, genre of music, and that's just kind of been who I am. So I've never really, but I realize it's also kind of cool because I can kind of go, I can flow in and flow out with, like, different groups of folks and different music, which I think actually is, I've kind of realized at this age that it's really actually a blessing that I don't really fit into something because, yes, I could be a master of knowing every single record and album of all the punk rock, but I don't. But I know albums and records of, like, every other, all these other genres. So I know, not the mass. I'm like, the whole master of none. That's totally me. But I realize, I'm like, that's okay because now I can. Now that I've had all these different experiences, I can kind of lay those out, and then I can kind of see, like, the full me, and, like, what is the next chapter, in my life, and it is kind of exciting. Like, I'm really excited about Wiscon, and what we're doing and the music that we're doing and how we're challenging ourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
as a band, and what it means for us because now we're writing political songs, and I've always personally wanted that, but we kind of strayed away from that, just because, like, we want to be, we just want to do the music. But I think that with the political climate, I think my brothers in the band have kind of, not that they haven't been political or anything like that. It's not about that because they are. They're good human beings. Obviously, wouldn't be in a band with them. They're amazing. Um, and I'm so honored to be with them. But now we're actually, like, putting our feelings into words, and that's just kind of everything to me because now I'm getting to do every piece of music, all the little, like, with the politics, and with being a woman of color, being in a front person of a pop punk band,
Mm-hmm.
being able to start writing and collaborating more with the music. So I'm getting everything that I need just from one from one thing, and I haven't had that in a long time. Probably not since I was just doing NighTraiN, and that's so a really great feeling.
Wow, like just like a really rich experience, like just being in Wiscon itself. Um, oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, I'm like really excited to see what you all come up with, and like just hearing the new music at the shows recently has been really exciting. Where like I'm just kind of like in it, and then I think to myself, oh, I don't know that one yet. Like let me listen a little bit closer to this because I don't know what to expect, or like I don't know exactly how it's gonna flow. So it's been a lot of fun. I don't know, Taryn. I think I might have met a new soulmate over the phone just now. When you when you mentioned like
Yay!
yes, like yeah, when you mentioned like not exactly fitting into X, Y, or Z world, and where you can kind of like flow in and out of things, and I don't know, I can definitely relate to that. Like where you feel like you're straddling multiple worlds, or you're just kind of like maybe I don't know, for myself, like
Totally.
sometimes I feel like I'm on the outer rings of a community. I don't know, like in college, I majored in business, but like, right across the street, like literally right across the street, there was a drama school, and I never really quite felt like I fit into either of them. Like, I made some really great friends in each of them and like, learned a lot from each of those
Right.
worlds, but always felt like kind of like an outsider that somehow made it past the front door. You know what I mean?
Yes, I love that. But
Yeah,
I think
so.
just that's so valuable. And to me, like, just not thinking only about myself, but of like, thinking about you in that way, like, that's so cool to me because that means that, again, like you said, like, you're going to be learning all these different things from, like a wide variety of folks. And to me, that kind of really lends to, like, my empathy and my compassion and my activism because I get to see all multiple sides of folks. I don't just hang out with this one group of the same folks. Which, if you do that, that's fine, that's cool, because you still learn empathy. But I think because of that, because I've kind of always been on the outside,
Mhm.
but yet I still get to have like a look in and be a part of something for a little bit. Yeah, that's really kind of developed my just kind of who I am, and kind of gave me like a solid foundation of wanting to, to me, intersectionality. I was doing all of that way before we started using it as a
A
buzzword or
buzzword,
whatever,
yeah,
because
for sure.
to me, like, it's kind of no shit. Of course, when I'm talking about, you know, women, I'm also talking about those that identify as femme or those that are non-binary. Like, to me,
Mhm.
I'm speaking about all of that. Now I know that that language is important, and to be inclusive, you need to kind of, you should kind of, how do I want to say this? You want to make sure that that the language is present. You know what I mean? Um, but I just, you know, every it's about everybody. Everybody deals with the after effects of racism. We deal with it differently. It depends on who you are, obviously. But people deal with all these isms. And we all deal with that. And we're the ones that made this shit up. So we need to be talking about it. So we do need to put that language out there. So, being very specific, like when we talk about sessions with she, we're very specific. And we say we are highlighting women, self-identifying, femme folks,
Mhm.
non-binary folks, etc. And then whatever else comes along the pike as well that people want to self-identify as, then we want them to be a part of it because we're all a part of it. And I
Agreed, yeah.
just, yeah.
Like we all participate somehow, even if it's just as like not even a spectator, but like just kind of like living in the environment or just existing in it. It's kind of like, hey, like by not participating, you are kind of participating in a way because like that's one unit or like one
Yeah,
space that you take up. So that kind of leads me
we're all
to
on this planet together.
yeah, like I mean
Like we,
it's making
God.
it's making the statement all lives matter like what it actually should be and not as a response to Black Lives Matter, which I mean I'm still trying
Exactly that.
yeah, I'm still trying to find ways on how to respond um when I encounter that. But that kind of leads me to my last question over here that like we live in Seattle, which I think that um some folks And I used to think this way myself. I would think, oh, like, we live in this sort of like this nice, convenient bubble where it's like, mostly a liberal city. Like, okay, we're in a good space here. But I think that maybe folks get a little bit too comfortable relying on that. And in that way, they're not willing to challenge their allyship, or they're not willing to, not necessarily like unwilling, but they don't realize necessarily. I didn't realize for a while that, like, oh, okay, like maybe I'm not being inclusive, maybe I'm like, what I'm saying is a little bit ignorant of other people's needs. So I don't know if you have like any kind of advice, or maybe ask for someone who's like maybe listening to this and genuinely trying to improve their allyship, like, what would you tell them?
Well, I would say that if you think that we live in a bubble, then you clearly have privilege
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because and that's not directed to you, that's just directed to folks because we live in the United States of America. We live on this earth, and we have chosen to make all these things up, these social constructs up, and really, it's really sad considering that the earth has everything that we would ever want or need. We are lacking nothing, and yet what we lack is understanding and empathy and compassion to other folks is really sad. And the fact that, kind of started out with class. And, look at who really wrote the Bible. It was those, like, people that were in religion and kings and stuff just to make social order, and then there's always been fights among tribes, and then you have colorism, you have
Mm-hmm.
racism in America, um, and there is privilege being a white person. There is privilege to me being a biracial person, because there is a privilege of having some whiteness because I
Mm-hmm.
do not have to deal with the things that my darker skinned sisters and brothers have to deal with. I do have to deal with racism, yes, but there's layers. We don't want to play the oppression Olympics because that gets us nowhere. But we have to realize that there are layers of things. That class is an issue, as well, obviously. And to me, class and race blend together, and it's even more detrimental to those of color when it comes to class as well. But
Right.
we all have to deal with these isms and otherings that we do. And I think that allyship, that's really a great word, but to me, ally, that's bullshit.
Okay.
Because you should just be a fucking good person and learn history. If when I went to school, I didn't learn shit. And I mean, we didn't have a Black History Month. We didn't learn enough, and the history that we did learn was not correct. And you can still see now that there are states that are trying to take away the history of folks, or
Oh.
taking away, like, trying to erase the books of what happened to our Native brothers and sisters. I mean, how dare you, to do that, to take away what people did to them, to take away from family, to take away their culture, their tongue, their hair. Um, and people are still doing that today. We're still trying to rewrite history, and it's the alleged winners that wrote history. My suggestion is
Mm-hmm.
that what people need to do is need to find some solace in yourself. You do need to put yourself first, and you need to make sure that you are taking self-care in whatever manner that may be, because we're all hurt. We're all, dealing with some kind of pain, and we need to deal with that. Go get some goddamn therapy if you need. Most of us probably do. Have good people around you. Leave the toxic folks that are around you that get you into negative shit. Get them out of your life. You can try to help people. I've tried to do that. I know that I have not always been a good friend. I have not always been a good sister. I've not always been a good person. I didn't come out of the womb woke. Nobody has. I had to learn. I had to teach myself about racism because I wasn't taught that when I was a kid. Um, it's really important to learn about history and the history of race, just starting just within this country, and that will help. There are so many people that do excellent jobs, and it is their job to kind of help navigate people towards some enlightenment when it comes to what actually happened in history. That's one step. Um, Another thing is just to surround yourself with other folks, because the thing is, the reality is that if you are surrounded by the same people that look like you, talk like you, think like you, where are you going to be challenged?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be challenged. No, you don't want to try to go have a black friend or whatever kind of friend just to,
Not trying to
to
be
kind of to get
token, like, yeah, not trying to like have tokens in your life or like step in like maybe have like
exactly
a weird
because not
voyeurism. Yeah.
yeah, not everyone's on the same journey, in their life and and where they're at. So making sure that you go to different types of like functions and meet other folks, get out of your bubble, get out of your comfort zone, because then you're going to meet people that don't look that that are have different experiences than you, and then you can learn from their experiences, and that's when it opens up compassion and empathy and just understanding of other folks, and that can change your ideas. Like I grew up pretty Christian, like Lutheran Christian, and it wasn't drilled that being gay wasn't okay, but there was that underlying knowledge that it wasn't okay. But then I realized, I'm like, wait a minute, how is that not okay? I have friends. I kind of have feelings myself around like queerness and what that means for
Mm-hmm.
me. So, is the people that I may have a crush on that are not that are the same sex, is that wrong? Is the Are my friends that are gay or that are bi or whatever, like, is that not okay? Do they not deserve love? And that kind of like blew my mind, and I'm like, that's not okay with me. I don't believe that these teachings are correct. And I had, and I had to learn for myself that, everybody deserves love and everyone should have a good life, and be supported and cared about and uplifted, you know. But I was, in high school at that time or middle school. And that's when that dawned on me.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that might dawn on other people later in life. And yes, while it might be hard, especially if they're saying horrible things, but we also have to understand that yelling at someone and shaming someone isn't necessarily going to be helping them either. Because I'm seeing a lot of this on the alleged progressives or the left. It's the left. I just
Yeah.
really said that out loud, didn't I? That's so gross. Take that part out. No, but people
I'm
that
not
call
that
themselves progressive
I'm
or
not that
liberal.
fancy yet, Taryn.
Yeah, no, it's totally cool. I don't care. It's like, progressive folks who say they're progressive or that they're liberal, and
Yeah.
they're talking about other people as bad as other people are talking about other people. You know what I mean? Like constantly, like just shaming folks or saying, go look it up on Google. How is that going to help? I do understand that being a person of color, being a woman, it is exhausting as fuck to have to educate someone, especially if someone doesn't really want to be educated, they want to argue about it. I don't do that anymore. But I just don't even, I don't enter conversations like that. If there is a loved one that I know or someone that I kind of like or care about,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell them where to go find some information, and not to go to hell and find the information, but I'm going to give them some, information to look up so they can go do that work, themselves.
Okay.
Now, if something that I don't know, well, then maybe I might be like, well, screw you, because I don't have time for that. But I just feel like the only way they're going to help people get to a place in their journey is by being a little gentle, because we all have some hurt and some pain. And I know that sometimes, people say, I don't owe you anything. No, you don't owe people anything, but why not give them a little bit of something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Rather than like close off completely and then expect them to, because like when you do that, it's kind of like, all right, like you go find it yourself, and then like when someone does, search engine or Google something, like maybe it's the wrong information when you could have like helped them out sooner. Um.
Well, yeah, because I think it's kind of making some people afraid to even ask questions to folks, because then
Yeah.
people are just getting dragged. And it seems like dragging people is what a lot of people are doing right now. And I feel that that's just, you're actually just doing exactly what everybody else is doing. You're adding more negativity to this world. And I think that we've had enough. We don't have to be all kumbaya, because that's not really realistic. Because there's some folks that really do want to keep that power, and they live off of that power and that privilege, and they don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And some people in the government have made it that way, and there are folks that benefit from it, most definitely. But just someone that grew up and just went to school and just didn't really do a lot of research, because they didn't really have to, because they felt it doesn't affect them. that person, be a little gentle, show them some things. If someone is just outright being hurtful and terrible, it's probably because they're hurt as well. And no, it may not be your job to have to educate that person, but you can just be like, cool, here's some information. Have a good day. Good luck with your life.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm personally doing. I'm not saying that anybody else needs to do that. That's fine. But I'm kind of noticing that on social media, and that's why I'm not really on it anymore, because I'm not really finding it healthy or beneficial. If I wasn't in a band, I definitely would not be on Facebook at all. I would
Okay.
rather see people in person, because seeing people in person is what really keeps that love open and alive, and the empathy and being able to hear what is happening with other people. Being a keyboard warrior, regardless of who you are and what you think, it's just kind of boring to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like how affected is it really? Like you might feel like a little bit victorious or a little bit like peeved or pissed, but I mean then you kind of go about your day and just kind of leave that behind. I think, but I don't know. Like what you're saying, I think is like a good reminder for myself as well because I mean I don't know. I'm a Virgo, so I think I'm just like innately pessimistic about things, like with. Like but like with a desire to improve, so just kind of like remembering, or like, okay, kiddo, like you present day versus like 5 years ago versus like 5 years before that, like understand that like each person is on their specific path at like their respective speeds in all of this, and try like trying to gain that understanding. So yeah, that's a good reminder for myself, I think, too. And then I think your advice is geared more towards folks that are um like in the space rather than like trying to reach out as allies. And like to a certain extent I agree that allyship is kind of a bullshit term. um and it's just more about being a good person. So yeah, I think I'm trying to figure out too, like, you just kind of like the vocabulary that I'm choosing to use and not to use and all of this.
Right, totally. Because I mean, if you are a supposed ally, then you know what to do. You know where to get the information from, because then you probably have friends from folks from all over the place and have different experiences. So they're we're gonna be talking about where to go and what to look at, what books, what type of media to engage, or maybe meeting people and having these conversations, going to workshops and trainings. There is a plethora of them.
Mm-hmm.
In the cities. Outside the cities, it might be a little bit harder. Then you're going to be relying more on good old internet to look stuff up. But I think it's really what I've kind of learned in the past year is self critiquing, because I want to continue to be the best person that I can be. And I'm learning that by self critiquing, and I love getting critiques from other folks as well, from friends, whether it be about music or anything. Anything that has to do with myself and my growth, I need to reflect and self critique at all times. That has made me see both sides. There's not just a one sided thing. I'm being able to see like both sides of like what. Oh, well, I don't understand why people voted for Trump. Really? You don't? You don't see like what has happened in the past, and how folks. I mean, I understand why. I don't think that it was correct, because I didn't vote for him, and I don't believe any of his policies or anything that comes out of his mouth. But
Mm-hmm.
I can understand why certain folks may have voted for him. And then the whole like, oh, people out in like the rural areas. Guess what? I grew up in the rural area. Like, I grew up in the country, so I know those folks. And there's many different types of folks that grew up in the
Yeah,
country.
let's
So that's
not
really
gen
ignorant
yeah, let's not hurt ourselves
to
by
say.
generalizing metro versus rural folks, right? Like,
Yes, because guess what? Hello, people in the city that work those 9 to 5 jobs. They voted for him too. So because like you're playing into what the people that have the power and the money want you to do. You're playing into like a weird kind of like classism and this like separation of folks.
mm-hmm.
No one is more like ignorant or more educated than others. That's just so boring, and like just kind of repeating the same thing over and over again. Like, I can understand why people do what they do. Doesn't mean that it's necessarily right or correct. Well, I don't know. Even the whole right and wrong thing, we could go on for hours for that. But yeah, I just have more fucking compassion and
Yeah.
thoughtfulness when it comes to folks. and don't get into the pattern of bashing other people because they may not have the same opinion or thoughts as you, because that's playing into what the people in power want us to do. Because if we really all got together, we could change this whole system, but we're too busy bashing each other to do it.
Like bashing each other, kind of like, no, this is the nomenclature we should use, bashing each other because it's kind of like, no, like these little like finite details about X, Y, and Z. Yeah, like kind of arguing with each other on a more intellectual level. Well, not I won't want to say level, but like in an intellectual plane or space. When outside of that coffee shop or like outside of the living room that you're chatting in, there are people that are like actually like living through these real problems that you're just talking about for intellect's sake, right?
Yes.
That gets frustrating for sure. Or like, just like immediately after election night, when people are saying, "Oh, well, we live in Seattle. It's not that bad as like compared to like other places." And like just like this
Oh my
concept
God.
of living in a bubble. I'm like, no, like there are very real things that are happening, like in our city
Yeah.
too. So, yeah, like wake up, people.
Amen to that.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
know we don't. It's confusing. Like, why are we here? What are we doing? And there's that age question. But it's like, to me, I don't know why we're here. But I guess if I'm gonna be here on this beautiful
Oh,
planet,
like you mean like
I,
life itself, and as a
just
human
life
being.
itself. Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
and I
Yeah,
think
no.
that's that question is kind of what our main issues are. Like, a lot of us, we're so afraid of death. We don't
Mm-hmm.
teach about death and mourning. So we have religion to put that in place. And you know what? People want to have a religion or something to believe in. That's okay too. All of it is okay. We've made up all of these things to make ourselves feel better and that we're not going to die. But we're
Mm-hmm.
going to. 10 out of 10 people die from death. That's like one of my favorite memes. I'm just like, we are at some point, so why not be a good person and keep, trying to find a good balance to be good to yourself and be good to others. And that is kind of my 41 years on this earth, that is what I've come to believe, is that we're here to make ourselves better, and then thusly to help others um, as well while I'm here, and to have a good ass time.
Meaning of life, folks. Meaning of life. Yeah. I think one of my favorite lyrics, I don't know if this is like a general saying, but one of my favorite lyrics is, if all good children go to heaven, then all good children die. So, yeah. I don't know. Just kind of reflect on
Yes.
that sometimes. Yeah. But Taryn, just kind of like winding up here, is there anything else you'd like to share for folks that might be listening to this?
Ooh, yes. So, Wiscon has lots of shows
Oh wait,
coming up.
let me do this part for you. Let me do it for you.
Yes.
Yeah. So yes, folks. So Wiscon specifically Friday, June 2nd over at Skylark. And I also just
Yes.
found out that you're going to be performing on the first day of West Seattle Summerfest. So
Yes,
definitely,
finally.
yes. So we have that to look
Yes,
forward
because
to.
we started out as a band in West Seattle, so I'm super pumped. Thank you, Troy, that we get to
Ooh.
do that. And yeah, the June 2nd show at Skylark, you're going to see a lot of fierce, uh, amazing people on that stage. And it's going to be our tape release as well for the trilogy. So, we put out Wake Up, and we put out Closet Light. Well, Contagion is our last song. So we're actually just going to do the full trilogy of 6 songs on tape. So it's going to be our tape release. We're also going to be at Olympic Sculpture Park in August. So we
Uh-huh.
have a lot of really, with skates, actually, too. We're going to play with skates at
Skates
Olympic Sculpture
again,
Park.
nice.
Um, huh?
Skates again. I know that you just performed with them for the Southern Poverty Law Center show.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
We love them, clearly.
Yeah.
So, one of our favorite bands in Seattle, so we try to play with them as much as we can. So, yeah, there's just a lot of really fun summer shows that are coming up. And speaking of really fun summer shows, Hoodstock is going to have its 10th year anniversary on July 29th. So we're really excited to be a part of that as Pock as Fuck. And, there might be a little reunion happening with
I
some
was
folks.
like flirting with the idea of mentioning that in this phone call, and I was like, maybe she'll do it, and then I don't have to look like a little nosy brat. But yeah, the word reunion, folks. I think that is what you should be focusing on.
Yeah, choo choo, motherfuckers.
Okay, yeah, there we go. There we go. So I think that we've said enough there. Choo choo, motherfuckers. I knew, all right, yeah,
Excellent.
I was like, all right, gotta get one of those in during our conversation today, and I did. So check mark. All right, well, Taryn, thank you so much for your time today. And I look forward to seeing you very soon.
Thank you so much. It was my absolute pleasure. Have a great Sunday.
You too. Thank you.
Welcome.